BJ on game day here. You got Brent, you got Joshy. Welcome to the show. Another week of NRL Supercoach round 2. Joshy, how you going, mate?
Mate, not too bad. It's been a good week. The Supercoach was a little bit tough over the weekend, but mate, everything's looking up. I can only go up from last week. How about yourself, mate?
Yeah, good mate. Great for the footy to be back on. Obviously, got something to do on the weekends now. Supercoach, very tough first round. A lot of guns didn't fire. A lot of pretty mediocre scores, to be honest. If you cracked the 1,000, you did superbly, but a very tough introduction to the 2019 season, mate.
Mate, definitely. Look, obviously for those guys who did crack the 1,000, they saw something that we didn't, because most of the reputable teams or the guys who were expecting to do well, no one really got too close to going over. I think you scored quite well, mate.
Yeah, mate, I'll take a 956 in a really tough week. I'll take it. I think for me, generally most weeks, I'm trying to hit that 1,000-point mark. That's my marker, depending on the week. That's generally not too bad. This week, 1,000 was definitely a good score. Look, there were some shining lights. There seems to be emergence of a few new guys for 2019. But generally, a lot of those guns people were relying on flopped big time. I think the weather, obviously, a massive part of that, but going to be really interesting round 2, mate. What about yourself?
Mate, look, pretty ordinary. There's no really other way to say it. Only 812, so really hurts to start the season off. I think ranked around 77,000. I didn't think I went as bad as last year in round 1, and last year I think I was ranked about 60,000. So still managed to climb to the top 1,000 last year, and hopefully can do the same this year. Mate, you were spot on about the weather. Look, just absolutely torrential conditions in all the games. Didn't really allow for too much free-flowing football, but, the Warriors game was probably the exception to that, and maybe the Storm and Broncos on opening night. But hopefully the rain can stay away this weekend. Hopefully a few more of those guns like your Teddies and that can get some more points on the board. Mate, look, plenty to improve on for me. Hopefully I can get over 1,000 this week.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. And looking at the BJ and Game Day League, we had a couple of boys crack the 1,000, so well done to top score for the round, Steve Double Denman. He's a mate of ours, Joshy, 1,016, so he's set the bar high early. And also welcome back Big Teddy with us from the start. He's also started the year with a big score of 1,005, so well done, boys.
Mate, Teddy's gone huge, so he started off cracking well this season, so hopefully he can keep it going. He's across the ditch in New Zealand, so no doubt he'll see this video tomorrow. So well done, Big Ted. And look, a few of the other guys returning again. Mark with the fucking Cowboys, he went well, but plenty of guys sort of in that mid-900s there. So I'm definitely lagging behind. And as you can see, our league ranking there, 4,500 out of 15,000. Again, we can definitely improve on that.
Absolutely, mate. And I think out of about 130,000 odd teams, you're looking maybe the median scores around that, 800 mark. So if you're above that score, you're in the top half, and I guess it says a lot. I mean, I definitely know some of the guys in the league. We've got Hell's Granny's back for another year, finished well in the top 1,000. He's just managed to crack the 900. Another guy in the league I've noticed, Shackmate Mana, is another bloke I've talked to through the Supercoach rings, and he definitely knows what he's doing. He hasn't even cracked 900, so it was definitely a tough week, and I just think get back on the horse. Don't do anything too reactive this week. It's not much of a sample round 1, so just brace yourself for round 2 and don't do anything too irrational.
Oh, mate, look, I guess I'm just lucky I can only use 2 trades this week. If they gave me any more, I'd probably use them all.
Yeah, look, they have this idea of a wild card in some of the other fantasy games that I play where you can pretty much just turn your whole team upside down. You get unlimited trades for the week when you play that card. I'm guessing a lot of people probably would have played that this week had they had that in the game.
Mate, looking back at round 1, who impressed you from a Supercoach point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a couple of standouts. Obviously, Tamalolo's got to be quite high up on that list. A massive performance from the big man. Obviously, a lot of conjecture around Supercoach-wise with the start with him or not this year, but the performance he put in, I think he ran for over 300 metres, a couple of line breaks, set up a try. he hasn't turned up, but he's gone close, and that one's definitely going to be a standout. Couple of guys seem to have emerged as well. Those that started with Bateman, John Bateman, from the English fellow for the Raiders. He's produced a massive score, all base, so he looks really juicy. And probably one of the other ones for me would be Sean Lane. He looks like he's going to be a good one this year, and if you get on him before the price rise, he could be a good guy to start the season with, mate. What about you? Any shining lights?
Yeah, mate. Look, speaking of Sean Lane, he's actually one of the trades I'm looking at this week to bring in. Unfortunately, I had Nathan Brown last week, who went down injured with that pec. I think they determined it was a pec tear, so unlucky there for Brownie. I gave him a little bit of a serve on social media, which got me in trouble in a few social circles. But look, Sean Lane I'm bringing in. I just think this guy's got plenty of upside. I toyed with him in the off-season to have him starting, but just with the makeup of my team, ended up going in a different route. But, mate, definitely he impressed. Look, I can't go past one of the Sharks players in that Britain Nakora. For 168k cheapie, look, this guy basically scored 65 points in base stats. Defended well, ran some good lines off SJ when they were available. Didn't really do too much wrong. Played good minutes. I'm really impressed by this guy. Obviously, a lot of pressure there in the Sharks with the likes of Scotty Sorensen and that, who aren't in the 17, pushing him for a spot. But if what we saw in round one is what we can come to expect week in, week out, really impressed by this guy. So he's another one. And, mate, Jerome Hughes. Look, now, I didn't have this guy, but I've been spruiking this guy for a couple of years now. And what I saw from him in round one is what I think we'll come to expect every week. Look, at 480k, he was just that little bit awkwardly priced. I couldn't stack up my fullback, so I just went straight up with Teddy and a cheapie purely because of what I had elsewhere. But looking back, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, 2020. But look, he's definitely one I'm watching because I think in that Storm, structure down there with the likes of Munster and Cameron Smith running the show, he's just going to benefit. We see how good Billy Slater was back there, and this guy's got that kind of talent. 22 runs, I think he had over the weekend, which is massive for a fullback. And I can see him averaging that 20, 25 week in, week out.
Absolutely, mate. I think brings a different dimension to that fullback role, which they haven't really had for a long time. Obviously, Billy Slater's been the incumbent for a long time, but good to see some new fresh legs in there. Mind you, it was a twist of fate. It probably was going to end up being Drinkwater, but unfortunately, he did the peck in the trials. So I'd also just
I've got to be honest,
a few notable mentions. You all right?
I know there was talk about Drinkwater getting the spot, but, again, woulda, shoulda, coulda, if he did. I think Jerome Hughes has really sort of put his foot down in those last couple of years behind Billy. I got a sneaking suspicion that Bellyache would have still gone for him, but, who knows now? It's in the past, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they have had question marks over Croft, and that's probably one of the main reasons why I think he still was a chance to start at 7. They've put a bit of time in him, and I don't think they were sold on him just yet still, but yeah, we'll never know now. Just quickly, some other notable mentions. It would be remiss of me to not mention a few other guys. Matt Gillette was obviously massive for Brisbane. Michael Morgan was obviously a standout behind that massive Cowboys pack. He's definitely an option around that 400k mark. Jakey Friend played massive for the Roosters. Yes, he was a bit inflated from his attacking stats, but he's played 80 minutes and great performance. Same with Cam Murray. And James Fisher-Harris, one that I was almost going to start with, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but didn't. But great performance from him. He's played 80 and pretty much put up an all-base performance. So definitely some good in amongst the low scores this year, all the first round rather.
I've got to agree with you about Michael Morgan. Look, he's just always I guess living in JT's shadow up there in North Queensland, he's always been a player that I thought could have been better, but maybe he never got the opportunity. And this year, look, arguably he's behind the best pack in the competition. The Cowboys pack looks absolutely sensational. I've got to say, I'm not a massive fan of Josh Maguire, and that's from a football point of view, not from a personality point of view. But I know this guy's tough, but I just think there's something he lacks in I guess, in intimidation with how hard he runs. But definitely a good pack up there at the Cowboys. And Michael Morgan could be the surprise packet of the season. Well, not surprised as such, but he could be the guy that sort of, averages in that 70 to 80 behind a dominating pack.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. He's a big watch at the moment, I think. So if we're looking at some of the results from the weekend, mate, we started off on the Thursday night. We had Melbourne get over the top of Brisbane in a pretty dominant display for the majority of the game from Melbourne there.
Mate, it was. Look, obviously, straight from the get-go, the Melbourne forward pack just completely dominated the young Broncos. Now, obviously, you talk about Matty Gillette making his comeback, and he was huge. To come back like that from a broken neck, and just goes to show how tough the guy is. He played 80 minutes in the middle of the park, and he was sensational. As you can see there, the scoreline, and Corey Oates from the Broncos, he was massive. We come to expect that from him week in, week in, or I guess year in, year out. Week in, week out, he's a little bit of a more tougher proposition to catch. But, yeah, no, a good match to start off the season. I think it went downhill there for the rest of the weekend with the weather, though.
Absolutely, mate. And Cam Munster was absolutely massive for Storm. He had three try assists, finished on 105 points, and very impressive start of the season for Cam.
Look, interesting there because obviously 105 points did upgrade from 76, I think it was, earlier from first update. So, cracking player, we all know that. I guess the hardest thing with Cam Munster at that number 6 spot is just that consistency.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Second game of the round, mate. Did you want to talk about that one for us to start off?
Look, not really. The Newey Knights, your boys, mate, got over my lads. It was the first time in about 4 or 5 years that you've beaten us.
400 or 500,000 years.
And forgetting about the trial form, forgetting about, I think we beat you 30-6 or whatever it was. I didn't expect this result. It was a scrappy game. There was errors everywhere. As you can see there, the only 3 tries the game was scored in the last 12 minutes. Probably what hurts the most is that it was Edric fucking Lee that intercepted and scored the winning try. But that said, I think the Sione Katoa penalty try was just ridiculous. There is no way that you can rule that a penalty try. Call it a knock-on to Dugan, call it a 10 minutes into sin bin for Edric Lee, whatever it may be. But one thing it wasn't was a penalty try to Sione Katoa.
Yeah, look, I don't like to hammer the referees, but they sort of just find a way for you to absolutely give it to them, mate. Round 1, they have not disappointed in multiple games. And to be honest, I think most Shark supporters would have probably preferred Edric to have been binned over a penalty try because he's ended up taking an intercept only, 2 minutes later, rather, and won us the game. So,
it's funny to call it this way. I guess, Tim Glasby there, he scored a few minutes before, but I think in the game sequence, the Sharks definitely had the momentum. And I guess that following the intercept, it just sort of came so quick about. We every time we were trying to get up your end, we were marching so quick up there. But look, again, that's in the past now. It was a good win to the Knights and get their season off well. I think both teams can really improve. They won't take too much out of that game. I think across the park they were pretty dismal with their attack and I guess their structure. So they'll definitely have a few things to learn from that. Blokes like SJ, Sean Johnson, pretty disappointing in Supercoach, only around 25 or 26 points. Look, there's a lot of talk this week about guys rage trading and trading guys like Sean Johnson and James Tedesco. Now, look, I'm not actually one for the rule that you don't trade a keeper. The fact is that if there's a benefit to it from a financial point of view with Supercoach, I'm all for it. But if you're just going to trade a guy because he scored 25 points, you got rocks in your head. Last year, Teddy, I think in round 1 scored 30 points or something similar to what he's done this season and backed it up with 120. So anyone who does get rid of these guys, just, buyer beware, basically. You really, really should think twice unless it's going to get you, 100,000 or 200,000, whatever it is, to get to the next player that they're going to get, I wouldn't be doing it.
Look, hypothetical to that is, say you got James Tedesco at the back. You're not happy with how he's performed. Maybe, let's for argument's sake, say this week he scores 40 points and you decide to trade him to someone like a Bateman that you don't have. Via Jules, you can bring in Bateman. You bank 290,000 for that trade alone. And just there, I think the fact that eventually you're probably going to bring Teddy back in at some point once he sort of bottoms out, if you will. A trade like that, you probably make enough money to justify those two trades straight away. But if you're not making at least 200,000 minimum, because I think when you get to the end of the season, trades are worth more than that 100,000 mark. You want to be at least 250 sort of thing in the bank, and obviously then when you're bringing them back in, you're going to make a bit of that back as well. But it is definitely an interesting tactic. I personally just prefer not to worry about it too much because I end up kicking myself when they go large after I get rid of them. But yeah, definitely some people play that way, and there's nothing wrong with that, but just a different way to play the game.
Mate, completely agree. Mate, the rest of the week, look, the games that I watched really didn't impress me too much. I really thought it was, apart from the weather factor, round one was pretty tough for the teams. There weren't too many sort of new spines amongst things, but one team that did have a new spine was, I guess, the Warriors with SJ moving to the Sharks. And that game there, for the Warriors to beat the Bulldogs 40-6, I think it says more about the Bulldogs than it does the Warriors. I think the Bulldogs are just in a world of hurt. Dean Pay, look, there's a lot of pressure going to be on this guy. It all comes back to the salary cap pressure. The fact is that these guys are basically playing with a second-string team, much like the Titans were against the Raiders, and these guys are going to have a tough season.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. And I think you got to, though, credit to the young Warriors halfback, Adam Kieran. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's obviously had a blinder as well, but he looks like a good young half. They did put him under the pump, and obviously under some unfortunate circumstances, what happened over there in New Zealand, they were obviously pretty pumped up. They opened up the gates for free for everyone in there, so it would be a massive atmosphere. But, yeah, I think the Dogs are in for a bit of a ride this year, and it didn't start too well.
Yeah, look, you're spot on there with the New Zealand thing. Obviously, tragedy there last week, and, a massive thing for the Warriors to do that, just to lift the spirits of the local people over there, and their team performed. So they've really got to be happy about that. Look, RTS, mate, it doesn't matter. I was a big, I guess, disbeliever in the SJ thing. I thought with SJ gone, he wouldn't get as much delivery, but this guy just wants to win. He just wants to be a good footballer, and anyone who started with him at the back, will similar thing to last season. I think for the first 8 or 10 weeks last season, really reaped the benefits, and they will again this week.
Yeah, mate. I guess the only thing we've got that sample of one. Hold on to your knickers for round two, because anything could happen.
Mate, let's skip ahead to round two. Obviously, there was a few games there in round one still to go. But, mate, have you looked at trades so far?
Mate, I have. I think for me personally, in regards to my team, the most disappointing aspect, despite the 950-odd, was the centre wings. And I always knew that there was going to be this potential for myself to get a bit stuck in that area. With that being said, look, all the guys I went with played. Didn't do awesome, but most of them, except for Bailey Simonson, have been named to back up. I'm going to persevere for another week. I think there's a couple of guys I'm looking at. Definitely Bateman's one, and potentially Jake Friend. But I am not going to make any trades this week at this stage. I think I'm happy to just see how it goes. I picked all the right cheapie forwards. Garner was obviously awesome. Lachlan Burr did really well. He's been named to start again. Even McKaylee at the front there for the Tigers. So I'm actually holding. I'm in a holding point. I'm going to give Cleary another chance. I'm probably going to give Matt Moylan another chance, and then have a real strong look at them for next week, because one of them's going to have to go if I'm going to bring in a Bateman. But at this point in time, I'm not trading, and I'm just sticking with my strategy. What about you, mate?
Mate, look, I'm forced into one trade purely because of the injury to Nathan Brown. Again, I'd sort of hoped, obviously, to keep Brownie, for most of the season. But look, that's not going to happen. So I did want to have a look at the West Tigers guy, the McKaylee. The fact is that I brought in, I guess, Thomas Fletcher. Now, look, Fletcher for the Broncos, he only got about sort of 15 minutes, and I wasn't too unimpressed with him. But it just seems that, like, I guess there's other guys in that pack that are going to dominate game time. So, look, the one trade I'll do is definitely Nathan Brown to Sean Lane. Like you, mate, I'm pretty happy with the other cheapies that I've got. I've got the Lachlan Burrs and the Britton Nakoras. Jacob Host obviously got a little bit more security with his job with Tyson Frizzell's unfortunate injury. So I'm sort of happy there. One guy I wasn't too impressed with, not so much from his gameplay, but was Junior Totola for the Bunnies. Now, again, last year I had this guy all through the season. He averaged sort of 25 minutes and scored around that sort of average points. It looks like he's not going to get too much more time. They've got Liam Knight there. They've got Mark Nichols. These guys seem to be, I guess, sharing that workload. And you guys like Sam Burgess, Cam Murray, John Sutton are all playing big minutes. So I was hoping that Johnny Sutton, obviously the older he got, might have lost a few minutes. But that doesn't seem to happen. So, look, Garner's one from the Tigers that I don't have. I'm not 100% sold on him. He obviously scored that try and that inflated his points last week. But, that's what he's there to do. He keeps keeping a couple other players out. So I might look at maybe Totola to him and just with a positional swap there.
Absolutely. And, look, I think it does hurt when a guy like Garner gets lucky and scores a try as well. It stings that little bit more when you don't have him. But who knows how good his job security is. Eisenhuth still hasn't got into that squad, so I think it's really just a matter of time before something's got to give there. Another guy I'm not sold on.
Do you know if there's any injury behind Eisenhuth?
No, I don't. I haven't got any mail on Eisenhuth, so I'm not sure what's going on. He was really highly regarded while he was there. I don't know if it's a motivation thing to try and, get him into the squad, but he's Matt Eisenhuth.
Yeah.
And, so I am watching that pretty closely, but, this could be the turning of the guard, a young Garner trying to get his shot, and he's doing well. I did want to mention another guy who I'm not sold on, and that is Braden Burns. Now, he's produced a pretty big score without any attacking. Well, he's had some attacking stats, but he hasn't scored a try. Look, I'm not sold on him just yet. I don't think he's a must-have this week or even next week. I'd definitely rather have a look at him this week and wait and see, because he's the kind of guy last year that had a lot of sub-30s, 20s in him. And, I'm not as sold as everyone else on this guy at the moment. What will be funny is if he scores a try this week and gets 50 or 60, because then he will be a lock. But at this point in time, I still think he's very much a watch.
Mate, look, I 100% agree with you. I'm actually hoping that he does score a try this week. I'm hoping that he sort of bangs out another 60, because I am not sold on him at all. I think what we saw on the weekend was a very, very good young play. His instincts have improved. From season to season, he's just gotten better and better. But what I'm not sold on the consistency. I guess that's what you get with centre wingers. It's hard to keep up those base stats unless you're a Blake Ferguson or an SR Masters or those kind of guys. But look, hey, I've been wrong before. So if this guy, goes like a gun, I'm not going to get him in. But it could mean that I'll miss out and everyone else reaps the rewards.
I think from a Supercoach perspective, there is a big part of him that's hoping he does do well, because it'll be an easy transition from a Kahu or a Nickel Clockstad that have potentially not gone as well as I would have liked. But, definitely just watching, mate.
Mate, what are your thoughts about the Jai Arrow minutes? Now, I watched the Raiders and the Titans on Sunday night, I guess, look, he didn't really do much different to what he did last year. He averaged that sort of 55 minutes. Do you think he turns into an 80-minute player?
Look, a big part of me, I know, last year his probably average minutes would have still been around the 55, 60 mark, as you mentioned. There was a part of me hoping that potentially there was that, step-up factor. He played Origin last year. Maybe he takes a more senior role in the forward pack and plays a few more minutes, because he definitely can do it. He's played bigger minutes at least. He can play 70 minutes quite easily, and he had played 80 at one point last season. I was disappointed, that's for sure. I definitely saw him getting a few more minutes than that. But that being said, he scored, 60 points in a side, a beaten side, a side that got flogged. And it was torrential rain for a forward to still accumulate that sort of points in basing. Like I said, the weather was atrocious. I think he's gone pretty good. So you can't be too harsh if you consider that side of things. What about you, mate? What do you reckon?
Mate, look, what I love is his offload game. He really looks for every opportunity to offload, and they're effective. They're well timed. They always hit the man he's looking for. Really, really keen. I'm actually glad that I guess the Angus Crichton thing forced me to start with him, because I think this guy can be a really, really effective Supercoach player. I think he's just a set and forget. I think come the end of the season, when we're sort of looking at who's that starting second rower, alongside your Lolos and your Turbos and guys like that, I think he's got to be in the mix.
Yeah, it's just going to be some really interesting sides come sort of the middle part of the year, because you're not going to be able to have them all. And there's definitely a few premium ones. But now they don't have dual status, which, not all of them did. It makes it a little bit harder.
Mate, moving to the round this week, I guess. Which matchups are you looking at, mate?
Yeah, look, there's a big part of me that's, I guess, now that they've moved on past us, is Cronulla. I'm hoping they can sort of bounce back and will do so. I think they'll have, they've got some pretty high standards at that club. So I'm definitely looking at that game. If Fafita was still massive for you blokes, I think he played the first 50-odd minutes or something like that without a break. So having a look at him, obviously, I've still got SJ, I've still got Moylan, so I'm tinkering around there, but I am leaning towards a Fifi. That would be the main one for me at this stage. I do have some big concerns around the Roosters game. I don't have a Teddy, I don't have a Latrell, and I think that they could give an absolute hiding to that Manly side after what they produced last week. So, bit concerned there from a pod perspective at the moment. What about you? What are you thinking?
Mate, on the Roosters, give us your thoughts on the Angus Crichton debacle.
Yeah, look, I don't know if this week's a bit of a smoke screen and he might get thrown in there for Orbo, or whether they really are worried about his injury in managing his minutes, or whether it is very much a bide your time and, pay your dues and eventually you'll, earn the respect to get that spot, but you don't just walk into the side and get given the spot. I don't know what it is. But I think if the Roosters were to lose this game this weekend, for argument's sake, I think they got to get him straight back in there. He's just too good. From a Supercoach perspective, give him another 10 minutes and let that price plummet come round 3, because as soon as he's named to start, he's going to be pretty juicy, and I think he'll be the most traded in player that week he gets started.
Mate, 100%. You're going to get guys like your Lachlan Burrs and your Jacob Host, who are going to jump from that sort of 190, 200 up to mid 300s, maybe 400, depending on obviously how they continue to perform. And Angus, mate, if we can get any kind of sort of 100, 150, 200,000 drop, look, definitely everyone's going to sort of have him in. At the end of the day, look, this guy has been attacking wise the best second rower in the game in the last couple of years. Defensively, he's still solid. But look, attacking-wise, he just really knows how to score tries. And at the end of the day, that's what gets you the big points in Supercoach, whether it's a centre winger, whether it's a second rower. So, me, like everyone else, I've got a close eye on him. the Mitch Orbison thing doesn't really worry me too much. At the end of the day, Mitch Orbison's used to being a utility off the bench. I think, whether it's a fitness thing with Angus Crichton, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm really tipping him to get 80 minutes. So once that does happen, look, I think if Trent Robinson plays around with the team this week and starts him in the second row, I'm going to bring him in for round 3. I know there's a price drop there, but I reckon his form will just hit. And I don't want to miss a big score, I guess, is the biggest thing with him.
Yeah, it's a big call, bring him in that week, so we'll see what happens. I think the other bloke as well, just while you're talking guns, and I agree with you about Angus being probably one of the most dangerous attacking back rows in the last couple of years, is Cookie. Cookie actually still looked really good. It didn't translate to points, but I think there's a big part of me considering doing a big dump next week with the Cleary and potentially Matty Moylan, and getting the guys that are going to get the rises and just trying to generate a bit of a bankroll, because potentially there's going to be some of those guys like Cookie that might drop a little bit, and I'm going to want to get them in straight away. Cookie being one, maybe Teddy as well, depending on how he goes this week. Angus Crichton's another one, and you're going to need some money sitting there for him.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're probably spot on there with Damien Cook and the Rabbitohs up against the Dragons this week. You've got Jacob Host and you've got Blake Laurie in the starting squads. Now, the one thing that Damien Cook's good about is really picking those times to run. And I've watched Blake Laurie for the last season and a bit now, and this guy can get a little bit lazy around the ruck and does get a little bit tired. I think if you can pick your spots, I think Damien Cook can have a massive week this week. I'm going to chuck the BC on him. Hopefully he can sort of get close to that ton. Give me some reason to think about getting him in.
And the big thing about Cookie is the Rabbits have a really good run. So even say after this week, that round 3 game with the price drop is going to be up against the Titans. Then they play Manly, then they play Warriors, and they play the Dogs, and they play Penrith, then they play Brisbane. I mean, they're not playing any of the heavyweights for a long, long time. They have a really good draw. That being said, it's probably been the closest sort of competition we've had for a number of years as well. But, yeah, the Rabbits have a really good run, and I'm very worried as a non-owner of Damien Cook.
Mate, anything else to add, mate? We've sort of covered a fair bit of stuff.
Look, we have. I think it was a pretty havoc-wreaked round 1. Hold your guns. Don't do anything too reactive. I think a sample of one game is not enough to be making any too big calls. If the guys like the Morgans pump out a sub 30, and a Cleary produces a 90-point performance or something like that, I mean, how are you going to feel once you've done those trades? Yeah, you might have a bit of money in the bank, but I think you got to hold on some of those guns. That being said, I would also say that these 4 trades that you'll get between now and round 3 are the most important trades you'll make all year, because they are the trades before any price rises occur on most players. So it is a hard one. I'm sort of saying do one thing and don't do another, but at the same time still think about doing it. But yeah, even for me, mate, I'm not doing anything too crazy at this point. I'm happy to wait at least another week, so don't be too crazy out there, guys.
What about the captain choice for the week, mate?
Yeah, look, I think I don't want to give too much away, but I think I'm leaning towards Fafita. I just like the look of him. He was very good, and seems to be that he could be getting a few more minutes this year potentially. He's definitely going to be a bit fitter. And maybe I'll just throw the VC on Lolo, given what he produced in round 1. You? Sticking out with the Teddy theory or what? Let's put that one.
Yeah, look, I'm going to stick it out. I will. I'm going to stick it out. I'm just going to chuck it on Teddy for the season. I'm going to throw my faith in him, and obviously bar an injury or origin time, I'm going to have him as captain. I just think I saw absolutely nothing from him last week. I was really disappointed. I didn't really mind if he had a poor game first up, but I was still hoping he'd bang out sort of 40 or 50. But the tackle bust weren't there. Granted, it was an absolute quagmire. He didn't get the sort of weather conditions that you want for a player of his standard. But a night match this week against the Manly Sea Eagles. Look, Manly just don't impress me whatsoever. So the fact that they've got a weak back line, a pack that's a little bit weak as well behind, Marty Kafau, I just think what we saw last year could really back up again and ton up again in round 2.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really concerned about Teddy and Latrell this week. I just don't think I'm going to watch that game for that reason either.
But guys, look, that's
head-to-head starts next week,
else?
and I will have, with the head-to-head starting in round 3, mate, I will have some prizes together. I'll show everyone that's playing in the league. I've come up with something, and I'll wait until next week to show everyone what that something is.
Mate, look, I reckon everyone at home will be impressed with those. So we'll give those a look in next week. Head-to-head, it's usually what I strive for because overall I've always sort of struggled year to year. But last year, that taste of the top 1,000 has given me a little bit more. I'm sure we can do a little bit better this season. But look, that's it, guys. Thanks very much for joining us for round 2 of BJ and Game Day. We will be back next week. Hopefully the scores can improve. If you guys have got any recommendations, any pods, anyone sort of in the wings that you reckon could make a difference to teams, feel free to leave us some comments. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We'll catch you all next week. Share on social media, exactly right, yeah. Thank you, producer. Oh, yeah, we better give a shout-out to the Angry Bogan as well. He's our producer. Follow his channel. It's a tough thing actually putting together these videos, so he does a sensational job. We try not to ride him too hard, but guys, give him a like as well. And yeah, look, if you can share us on Facebook or anything like that, that'd be fantastic.
He obviously isn't watching our videos, the producer, because he hasn't even produced an 800. He's been listening to you too much, I think, Joshy.
Well,
but thanks, guys.
One thing you didn't want to listen to me about, but anyway. All right, guys, we'll catch you all next week. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.